This year's contentious election left pollsters dumbfounded once again as many states saw Biden's projected double-digit leads shrink to the slimmest of margins. I've got media analyst David Lamb with me to talk about this. David, you know, I got to tell you, you called this right.
Pretty close.
You really did. The last show you started saying these numbers are they're getting thin, they're tightening up, and then you gave the reasons why. So I want to ask you, how did the pollsters get it wrong again? There's no question they blew it again. I'm not going to dress it up. You got you got a bunch of goofballs running this whole polling business.
An October 28th poll, just days before the election, Washington Post, ABC News, Biden was going to win Wisconsin by 17 points. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He won by less than 1 percentage point. It was going to be a landslide. A number of ways. One pollster, I think he got it right. Whenever the Trump name is on a ballot, all bets are off. As to why the shy Trump voters, what they said, I think it really comes down to Trump voters do not trust the media, and I don't think they participate.
It's not just polling. Here, you hit a bigger issue. It's not that they don't trust just the trust polling. Right. They don't trust the media anymore.
They do not. No.
And as a matter of fact, that's probably one reason that we're going to see Trump and his types move into more conservative media, because that's where people are going to go now. So that there's no question the lack of trust in the media, not just the polling business, shut it down. What do the numbers tell us about how Biden won?
There was a massive turnout. As you well know, Joe Biden has gotten more votes than any presidential candidate in history, and Donald Trump second of all time. So a massive turnout. Conventional wisdom always is that benefits the Democrats. It did so once again. Biden and Trump just set numbers. The turnout in some urban areas, Pap, was just off the charts. And Biden had to do that. We talked a lot about, you know, there was this anti-Trump vote, but was anyone jazzed for Biden? Who knows what happened, but they did turn out for one reason or the other.
Not necessarily jazzed for Biden, but we got to get Trump out of office.
Got to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk about the suburbs being the key to this election. We heard that all along. There were a lot of myths out there, weren't there? Yeah. Tell me about the suburb issue.
Well, what is interesting about the suburbs is that, and I think even President Trump had this, that a bunch of white suburban moms, that's the suburbs. That's not the suburbs anymore. The suburbs in places like Philadelphia, Milwaukee, those areas in those key states that were just so crucial really turned out. Philadelphia, for one, as an example of what took place there, they turned out huge. Georgia turned blue for the first time since '92, large part because of Atlanta. Arizona turned blue for the first time since '96. Phoenix and Maricopa counties and those suburban, those pocket communities, as they called them this election, really turned out and really turned it up for Biden.
Okay, does that, talk about Georgia, does that big turnout translate to the Senate races? Does that momentum, the last thing I read, the momentum doesn't seem to be there for the Senate
See, what's
race.
confusing, Pap, about this is the Secretary of State in Georgia is being viciously attacked. There's so much about how you can't trust the system. Okay, so that's the one message. How can you also, but by the Republicans, by Trump and his guys. Right. So how can you fuel folks to turn out in a system, an electoral system that they don't trust? So how is that going to affect turnout is a major question with that Senate race in Georgia.
So if we look at the big turning event, again, I even think the pollsters, when they did their recap of why they screwed up so bad, I think they even got that wrong. But I'm looking at the youth vote. Give me your take on the youth vote.
Yeah, you know, well, you've got a daughter in that age group, and historically, you know, that millennial under 35 have not really turned out well. That was a major question mark going into this, because they did not like Trump, favored Biden, but would they turn out? That was the big question mark. And they certainly did in key states. If you think of Wisconsin, one of the huge wins, and Biden won that by less than 1%. But the bump in the Madison, Wisconsin area, Biden was able to do something that Hillary Clinton was not.
Show up.
Yeah, the youth vote showed up. in the Milwaukee area, but also in those, Philadelphia is another city with several colleges right there. Again, that youth vote, that college vote, that millennial vote was one of those groups where there was a big jump in 2020 versus 2016.
We'll see if that translates to the Senate race that's taking place in Georgia.
Yeah.
But as you look at this overall, and you say, okay, the criticism that in 2016 we heard the pollsters say, we're going to change some things. We know what we did wrong. We didn't put enough emphasis on white middle-class voters. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so now that we fixed it, all is well. It was worse.
It was, yeah.
It was absolutely worse.
And you've got to wonder if it's, in a sense, it's over for many of those pollsters, and the way the media covers that has been such a benchmark, such a spectacle, and a part of it. And now I think there's the integrity and the confidence in the pollsters.
Credibility is shot for the entire media, not just the pollsters.
True.
David Lamb, thank you for joining me.